Staying on this story now and joining us live from Liverpool is Francesco Rizzuto, a Professor of European Law at Liverpool John Moores University. Thank you for joining us, Francesco. Why has this agreement been so important over the past decades, and what would you say are the main risks of it ending?
I think it's been important over the last 50 odd years because it almost meant that the two major superpowers, the Soviet Union and then Russia, of course, following that, with the United States, that they were going to limit the extent to which they were going to grow their capacity to destroy the world and each other, of course. So, in a sense, it was almost symbolic. And therefore very important. Obviously, it disappearing and not being renewed is an example of the new era in international relations, really, where international law, in other words, the powerful agreeing to limit themselves as to what they can do, has gone. The Americans are not particularly interested in going forward. Why? Because Mr. Trump is going to build a massive dome, apparently, on the sort of model that the Israelis have. So it doesn't augur very well for the future, really.
Francesco, do we know more about what Russia's nuclear capabilities look like right now?
I don't, well, they've kept them fairly secret, though we have noticed that they certainly have been developing their capacity to deliver. If you remember these new hypersonic ballistic missiles that can carry nuclear warheads that they've been using in the Ukraine in a limited extent. So they have the capacity, but also I think it's fair to say that Russia really has, yes, lots and lots of warheads, but how serviceable are they in reality? And in any event, how many warheads do you need to destroy the opposition? I remember during the Cold War, basically we got to a position that was called MAD, mutually assured destruction. That has not changed. And no international treaty on earth is going to change that because none of the major powers are going to give up the capacity to destroy each other. Obviously, what to do about China is very important because China doesn't want to participate in any agreement until it has 12, 1,200 or 1,300 warheads. In other words, it has the equivalent capacity. This is insane, but nonetheless, that appears to be the direction we're going in.
And you mentioned the reasons why potentially the US doesn't want to agree to another treaty like this. Do we know the reasons why Russia also might be reluctant to some kind of agreement?
Well, I think the Russians are more keen, if you like, are more favorable to having some kind of agreement with the US. But if I was sitting in Moscow, I would be concerned more about, well, if Trump goes ahead and actually builds what President Reagan wanted to do many years ago and builds this sort of dome that makes it nigh on impossible for our missiles to get through in the event of a conflict. Um, then how do we do that? Do I need a treaty to develop the capacity to penetrate this new dome? How much is it going to cost me? So I think the Russians would be quite keen on a deal, though for what? Given what the Americans are going to do or plan to do. Hence that whole Greenland supposed saga, if you remember a few weeks ago. So Russia wants a deal also to limit the amount of money that it's going to have to spend on modernizing and keeping up with the United States. Remember, what fundamentally undid the Soviet Union was trying to keep up with the Americans in the arms race. We mustn't forget that. History is not completely irrelevant when we discuss these issues.
Okay, Francesco Rizzuto live from Liverpool there. Thank you.
Pleasure.